Howdy, you are listening to Booted Dudes, a podcast about Doomtown Reloaded. Today, the dudes give you the big picture about the Weird West and how it came to be. Also, you could win your very own Deadlands dice pouch, so stay tuned and visit us on Facebook. Enjoy! Welcome to Booted Dudes, episode 20! My name is Michael.
And my name is Hans.
Let's get started, Hans.
So what's the target for today?
My target for today is... No, Hans, you need to ask me the other question.
How booted are you today?
Thank you for asking. I am both booted and excited. I was running today, so I'm actually really booted because my legs feel like I want to go to sleep right now.
Okay.
And then also, I got a package today. Yay, from the mailman. And I got a wargame that I was waiting for a very long time, which is called Target for Today.
Okay.
Bombers over the Reich, 1942 to 1945.
That sounds interesting.
Oh, yes, it does. Well, you generate a bomber and a crew for it, and then you fly missions, and your goal is to fly through your complete tour of duty, which was 25 missions. If you made it through 25 missions alive, then you were sent back home to the USA.
Okay.
And it's really hard. Most people never make it to 25. And you get these interesting stories because there's tables for everything. Like when your people get hit in the plane, there is a table for where they get hit and how severely they get hit and what is their chance of, bleeding out and stuff.
Okay, so it's the role master of wargaming?
Oh no, it's actually, in wargaming terms, I think it's a very simple game.
Okay. I've got a similar game, like it's called Duel in the Dark.
All right.
By Z-Man Games, I think.
How's that?
Yeah, it's quite nice, but I tried to sell it, so nobody wants it. So if anybody's out there...
Hans, this is not your private...
feel free to send me a mail.
Oh boy, we can't do this, Hans.
Why not?
We'll have to pay taxes and stuff if we make this our podcast about selling board games on the internet.
It's not about selling board games. Just send me a mail. Okay. So, we've got many things to discuss.
Yes.
So, I think actually we wanted to gather last week or the week before that, because the Kickstarter should have been out, but it actually isn't at the time of recording. Yeah, so why is that?
Well, as it happens, there have been business things in the way, with an undertaking as big as a Kickstarter, which has you shipping stuff across the world, basically. It's always a very big deal to get a good deal for international shipping because nobody wants to pay, 60 euros for shipping and taxes. So as Pinnacle Entertainment have posted, they have had the opportunity to make a better deal. But
yeah, I think so, yeah.
That took a little bit more time.
Okay.
And also...
There's the trunk.
There's the trunk. What's in your trunk, Hans?
Actually, I don't know. I don't own a car. So I think a trunk is like a big box.
Yeah.
And it's supposedly a box where you can put everything in. Like the whole Doomtown collection. And all the new stuff which comes out, I think. So I don't know if it's some kind of deluxe edition. Do you think? No. Like with the deluxe poker chips and stuff?
Nah, I don't think so. But it could definitely be an option to add stuff like that, premium components as well. But
cool.
Basically having a big trunk to put all your Doomtown cards in sounds like a really interesting proposition. Although the core box is already really good at organizing your cards.
Yeah.
I don't use it anymore, but it has, these...
I use it.
It has this insert where all the cards don't fall over and stuff. It's very, very nice.
I use 2 of them and everything goes in there. It's like the best core box ever.
Yeah, definitely.
It's completely overproduced.
But still, will you get a trunk?
I'm not quite sure. But they said that they will post photos soon, so then we can have a look at the trunk.
If it's a really sexy trunk, maybe I'll get one myself. Okay, we need to step down with the trunk jokes. It's too much. But they have said that there's going to be even more stuff. And one thing got me extremely excited, which is a...
yeah, I know.
Can we talk about this already?
Yeah, why not? The Deadlands role-playing book with all the stats from Doomtown.
Yes.
So that's interesting for you because you are an avid an avid Deadlands role-playing fan.
Yes, I've never played it, but I am a fan.
You just bought the book, the 20th anniversary edition of Doomtown.
It arrived just a week ago, I think. It's great. I love it to bits. It's really good. And I think I'm going to play this as soon as my current Shadowrun campaign is ending, which is very soon.
Why is that? Everybody's dead?
Well, mostly. A few days ago when we had our last session, I destroyed the rigger's car. Sorry. So a rigger is your guy with the getaway car and the drones and stuff. Mm-hmm. And in our group, he is in this ridiculously big and metal-plated van, like in Dawn of the Dead or in A-Team. Yeah, it's basically the van from A-Team, but it has a rocket launcher on top.
Okay.
And I destroyed it. And then also I destroyed the cyber deck that our hacker uses, to do his shenanigans on the Matrix. And then I also shot our street samurai, but he's gonna make it. He's fine.
Okay.
But still, we had this.
Do they hate you now?
No, it was a very climactic and interesting battle that ensued.
Okay,
cool. And they're getting paid, so.
Okay. So they will buy new stuff.
I definitely fear so.
So what other news are there? There's currently the Epitaph series going on.
Where?
Everywhere.
Wow.
For example, there was like the big Euro tourney, I think, in the UK. And then there were some tourneys in Copenhagen and Sweden. So, but we couldn't make it.
Nope.
That's sad.
Unfortunately not.
So they had to win for themselves. It's not funny.
Well, I'm sure they did great. But I've been reading that they didn't have a very big turnout that day.
No?
No. So they've already put up a voting on Facebook.
I've seen that voting. Okay.
About the date for the next tourney, which I think is a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So they can ensure that the next Copenhagen tournament is going to be a big one again.
Yeah, and do you think we will take part?
Well, if it's a date that we can manage, yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I really like it. That's that. There's currently, I think, an Octagon League going on during the Epitaph series. So, but we don't play Octagon.
No.
So, you can't beat us there. Somebody mentioned, but I think we don't know the answer, if there's in the Kickstarter some revised cards.
Oh, that's a good question.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. Pinebox Entertainment are in a interesting spot at the moment because they have made a lot of errated cards as prizes for the Epitaph tournaments.
Okay.
So you could get a corrected Ivor Hawley Experienced, and what else did they errata?
Auto Revolver?
Possibly. I'm not sure about that one. And you could get these as door prizes, so a lot of people already have them, but because it's not really promotional stuff, but it is like, erratas are for everybody important. They have said that there might be another way to get them. So I am hoping that during the Kickstarter, you could maybe add some errata cards as an additional buy.
That would be definitely cool, yeah.
Yeah, that would be really great for people like us who can't seem to get to a tournament. But we'll see. Also, some people who are way smarter than us have pointed out that there is a telling of how many cards there are in the Kickstarter.
It's actually on the cards.
It's on every card at the bottom. Okay. So how many cards is it going to be? Is it like 100 like I was hoping?
At least 100. No, it's 24.
Oh my god.
And I think we already know 22.
Yeah, there is lists on the Pinebox forums, I think, with all the spoilers that have been released so far. Or somewhere.
Not on Doomtown DB?
Oh yeah, they put it online on Doomtown DB.
Yeah, but I haven't looked at it. I will be surprised.
Yeah, me neither. I really like cracking open the pack and looking at those cards for the first time. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil myself too much, although most of the cards we could have legitimately have seen already because they have been given to other Doomtown Reloaded outlets who put them on the internet. So it's not like you are looking at illegal spoilers or something.
No. It's not a matter of legality.
Nope.
I think the last 3 or 4 podcasts you told me were kind of presented at the Pinebox forum by a user named Harloth.
Yes. What a great guy.
Yeah.
Actually, if you go to Pinebox and the forums, you will find him there actually paraphrasing everything we talk about on our podcasts, which is a great coincidence because lately I got extremely lazy with my own show notes. So, I used to do this myself, but then I figured, maybe I don't need to spend all the time doing that.
It's like the ultra show notes.
Yeah, they are so comprehensive. There is hyperlinks in there to check out the decks that we talk about or other stuff that we reference. It's really, really nice. And I've just found it like recently, and he's been doing it for months. He's like, he's like the ghost in the machine who is helping so much. So thank you very much, Harloth.
Yeah, thank you very much. Pretty nice work.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think it's always good for like podcasters to see that the guys and girls are enjoying the stuff you present or like you talk about. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great to get some feedback.
And there was also some very, embarrassing feedback.
Oh, are you talking about how we play the game completely wrong?
Yeah.
So what did we do this time?
Yeah, I think we put the pieces wrong together.
We didn't put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Oh, no. So 2 people were kind enough to point that out. I think we're going to call them out.
Okay.
So thank you very much to Jay Jester and Mark Geisler, who both found out that we do putting the pieces together the opposite way.
Yeah. So it's not +1 production. It's actually an upkeep for the card. So that changes the deck dramatically, I think. Especially
the matches that we played against the sit-down strike, where I remember distinctly sitting at home with 3 putting the pieces together and just gaining 6 Ghost Rock every turn, when I should have gained 0 Ghost Rock every turn.
Yeah. So it's time for a rematch.
Yeah, we definitely have to rematch those. It's still a good card, I think, but we really need to reevaluate the putting the pieces together decks. I don't think they are as mighty as we made them out to be, like a cut above the rest. I think it's very competitive still.
Yeah.
But not that overwhelmingly good.
But the good thing is that you have to put some deeds out.
Yeah. Makes for more interactive gameplay.
Yeah, definitely.
That's always good. And I checked the composite rules for this. It actually says that whenever you have an attachment to something and it has a number on the bottom right, it's an upkeep, except when there is a plus next to it. Then it is extra production. So at first I was like, come on, why couldn't they have made it like minus for upkeep? But then that would, I think, open a can of worms because then it would look different than the upkeep on dudes. And then you would have to ask, is it actually negative production or is it regular upkeep? Can I choose to not pay it? And so it's probably just consistent templating if they make it upkeep like that.
If you can choose not to upkeep the card, you just discard it?
Yeah. So you can definitely do that with putting the pieces together. But if you put a minus there, and it would maybe be a direct modifier to your production, then it would maybe be different. So, you would just make it more confusing. And if it's an upkeep, then you know how to handle upkeep.
But like the normal rules are, you can leave out the plus and you have to put the minus in, like in math. You always, like the positive numbers, you can leave the plus out. But for the negative numbers, you have to have the minus. So it's like the convention the other way around. So
we are in anti-math territory.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So I think that's for the news, huh?
Yeah.
We are all waiting for the Kickstarter. And
as soon as that one kicks off the ground, which is still supposed to be in July, as they say on their page.
So it's maybe today?
Maybe today or very soon. And I think in our next episode, when the Kickstarter is live, we're going to try and offer some advice for people new to the game or people who are not new to the game, like what pledge to give to the Kickstarter and what you get for what amount of money. Or
Yeah, the comprehensive Kickstarter guide.
Yes, that's us. TN.
So, so the next point will be...
There is a little story. I did get my Deadlands Anniversary Edition and the Good Intentions plot point campaign about Dr. Darius Hellstrom, my favorite reckoner. Yes. And also, I got something that is... that was a little giveaway because I took part in some community riddle thing that we had to solve. And I got not 1, but 3 dice bags for some reason. I think they just made a slight error packing it. They have the nice Deadlands white print on a black leather bag. And inside is a whole set of role-playing dice from D4s to D20s.
Okay.
And I think we should give it away. Because
that's a good idea. But let me ask you one question. What's the plot point campaign?
A plot point campaign is just a name that Savage Worlds uses.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically a role-playing campaign, but it's kind of loosely connected only. So instead of having this very long book where you have to do a series of adventures in exactly one order, there is a main storyline. But then in between, there's a lot of different side quests that you could engage in. And the main storyline is still kind of a linear thing, but it only comes in like every so often. And if you're a game master, you have a lot of freedom because you can very freely add in this or remove that other element of the campaign without having to make sure that everything gets back on the rails again.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very nice concept. I love it.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So we want to give the dice bag away, and we will make some kind of lottery.
And we're going to do it via Facebook. So if you listen to this episode before the 15th of August, you will find on our Facebook page, facebook.com/booteddudes, a post where you can vote for which one of the 4 reckoners that are going to come in the new set you like the best. We would like you to just select one of the 4 and drop in a comment. It doesn't have to be something really long, but we are especially interested in what kind of decks do you want to make with this new deck building possibility.
How they will stir up the meta.
Yeah. So vote for one of the 4 reckoners, leave a short or a long comment, and we will enter you into a lottery, and one of you people is going to get a Deadlands leather dice pouch with the dice inside sent to them worldwide.
Yeah.
Even if you live on the moon.
That wouldn't be worldwide.
Oh, sorry. So everywhere in the sublunar atmosphere.
So we are definitely excluding the ISS.
I don't think we can make this get any better again. Oh, God. Okay.
No.
So,
okay, doesn't matter.
We're shipping worldwide.
Yeah.
So please do that until the 15th of August. Find us on Facebook and take part in that. And we're very interested in what people have to say about the reckoners.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
What's your favorite reckoner? From the story? From the story or from the rules? Whatever you prefer.
Or from the picture.
Or from the picture.
I think the guy with the pistol.
Stone, yeah.
Yeah. Jasper Stone?
Jasper Stone.
Who? He has the same name as my son.
Coincidence?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Jasper Stone, yeah. He's the Servitor of Death, is he?
Yeah.
So.
And he's very, I recently read, he mostly shoots down other Herald dudes, which is interesting, because he's Herald himself.
He hates Herald dudes, or what?
Maybe.
Because they are undead, and he's death.
Oh my God. He's like, come back home.
And, okay, I know what your favorite Servitor is. It's the guy who builds a train to go into the hunting grounds.
Yeah. I think he actually goes straight into hell or something. I'm not exactly sure. To hell or to the hunting grounds. He lands in one of these places.
Cool.
Dr. Darius Hellstrom.
Okay.
In the pursuit of trying to get back his deceased wife.
But how he does it with the rails?
I think he infuses the rails with ghost rock and something. It's some mad science in there.
Cool.
It's really nice. And you can read all about it in the Good Intentions plot point campaign.
Okay.
Which I haven't yet, so I don't know anything for sure.
Okay, so that's our big lottery.
Yay.
Today we will do some Flash.
Nothing much going on with Doomtown Reloaded per se until the Kickstarter launches.
Yeah.
And some people have said that we should cover the world of Deadlands now that the meta plot is going to be more important.
I think we did this in the beginning for some episodes, huh?
Yeah, we kind of did the history a little bit, and then mostly focused on the servitors. But today, we're going to talk a little bit about the Weird West itself and how it came to be.
Yeah, you sent me like 2 maps, and first I was thinking, Ticket to Ride. But it wasn't Ticket to Ride, it was the Deadlands role-playing universe map. Basically, it's basically the US, but only the west part. It's not, the east part was left out.
Yeah.
The East Coast.
Yeah.
Sorry, the East Coast was left out. And so what can you tell me about that?
Well, for that, I think we need to get a little bit into US history, because me not being from the US, even although I do play war games, I have no idea about stuff that happened during the Civil War. And in our world, the US Civil War lasted from 1861 to 1865. And then the Union won against the Confederates. And the goal of the Confederates was to have their part of the United States sovereign. And they lost. So it became the United States of America afterwards. In the Deadlands universe, things went a little bit different. The US Civil War still started in 1861. But then in 1863, when the Battle of Gettysburg happened, the reckoning started as well. We've talked about this in earlier episodes.
Okay.
I think in the episode about Harold, when we were talking about Stone, because he was at the Battle of Gettysburg.
Okay.
And so the dead rose for the very first time. And so what should have been a decisive victory for the Union was kind of a tie, because everybody went home because zombies.
Okay.
And after that, whenever there was a major clash between the Union and the Confederate States, even weirder things happened. So ever since that day, the US Civil War has been kind of on and off. It's mostly a Cold War now, but still there is sometimes offensives that the Union or the Confederates launch. And it has never moved past the Mason-Dixon line, which is an actual thing from our history.
Okay.
It was the geographical line that separated the Union states from the Confederates.
Oh, okay. So it's like kind of Cold War or kind of truce.
Yeah, but it's very brittle. And because of all this weird reckoning stuff that happened, the Union and the Confederate States both decided to investigate. And that is when the Union hired the Pinkertons, which is a detective agency, to investigate. And the Confederate founded the Texas Rangers.
Oh, okay.
And they're both basically doing the same thing, which is looking into what is actually happening with the world and then fighting the abominations and servitors. So the Pinkertons have been contracted by the Union states. And in 1877, the Union took matters into its own hand and called what has been the Pinkertons before now the agency, which is basically the same people, but under direct governmental control.
Okay, so they are like an agency, like the FBI.
Yeah, basically. The interesting thing is that back in the East, the head of the agency is still the Pinkerton that was the head of the Pinkertons before.
Okay.
But in the West, there is another person who rose up to be the head of the agency, and he's only known as the Ghost.
Okay.
And actually, the Ghost is a person that you could know. I'm going to show you a picture later, and you will know who it is. But I'm not going to spoil it, because it's one of the secrets of the Deadlands universe. But it's a very, very famous person indeed. And the Ghost...
Clementine Lab.
Yes, you got... No, it's not Clementine Lab.
Okay.
And so that is what you're going to find in the Weird West. And the agents under the Ghost are mostly called the Spooks, because they are very, very mysterious people in trench coats, and you don't really ever know what they are doing or why they are doing it.
Okay. But so the West is. I'm not in U.S. American history either, but the West is neither Confederate nor Union.
There
territory.
is Confederate and Union territory in the West as well.
Oh, okay.
So the Northwest is Union territory, and the Southwest, like Nevada and Arizona, that's all Confederate territory.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
But then where Doomtown is situated, that is a neutral zone, actually. The Great Maze.
Okay.
Nobody has that under control. Okay, so the Texas Rangers, on the other hand, they are led by a person called William King. And their most famous motto for dealing with abominations is shoot it or recruit it. So there have been stories about Texas Rangers actually employing weird creatures and then have them do their bidding. Also, every Texas Ranger gets a little book called The Ranger's Bible, which is like a handbook for those agents. And not all of these books, but some of them have the fabled chapter 13, which is kind of like a bestiary of the abominations and things that you can meet in the Weird West.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like the secret chapter. Back to the Civil War, it's still going on. In the Deadlands core book, you usually play in 1878, I think. So it has been 17 years since the U.S. Civil War started, and it never ended.
Okay.
Some other major events that happened in the time between that I'm not going to talk about in a lot of detail are the flood that we talked about as well. Mm-hmm. It happened in 1868, so 10 years ago. And 2 years ago, in 1876, there was the election. Because, of course, the Confederates and the Union still had elections. And in 1876, those fell into the same year for both states.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
So in the North, you still had Ulysses S. Grant as a president, and he was now facing Samuel Tilden, the governor of New York, who was part of the peace movement, while Ulysses S. Grant was a general of the Union Army. And he did win that election with some more and some less fair methods, but mostly because they were still at war. Most of the people in the Union states were quite happy to have somebody at the helm who knew about fighting stuff and wasn't all for peace. While in the South, since the U.S. Civil War broke out, Jefferson Davis has been the president for all the time. And in 1876, he was contested by General Lee, which I think people in the U.S. know because I think he was the most famous general of the Confederate States. He was also fighting in Gettysburg. Jefferson won against General Lee, but only by a very slight margin. And there is very believable accusations of fraud being in there. Okay. Especially since Jefferson Davis has not really been himself lately, but I'm not going to go into that because that's also part of the meta plot of Deadlands. Okay, also recently the British...
Because he is Clementine Lab.
Oh, this is going to be a running theme now.
Yeah.
All right. The British actually invaded Detroit recently. So Detroit is currently under British
control.
Thank you. And another thing that we're not going to talk about today is the Great Rail Wars.
Ah, yeah.
Basically, a lot of money was promised to the first person to finish a railroad from the east of America to the West Coast.
Okay.
And since then, a lot of companies have tried to be the first to accomplish that. And then because, free market and stuff, they started hiring armies and fighting each other. But maybe we're going to talk about this in another podcast. Do you have any questions so far?
No.
Okay, so this is the world we live in now. To just give you a broad overview of the states that we have in the Weird West, they are divided into Union, Neutral, and Confederate territory. And then also there is 2 separate Native American territories. So to the Union states, you have the Great Northwest, which is Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. It's very chilly up there. And there is stories about Sasquatches, Wendigos, and Wolflings participating in winter wars where they all fight each other in the snow-drenched plains. And also part of the Union are some states called the High Plains, and among those are Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, and Dakota. And I don't have a lot to tell about that part of the West. There is the Yellowstone National Park in there, which I think everybody knows. In the Deadlands universe, at Yellowstone, you actually have a very thin veil between our world and the hunting grounds. So, with all these geysers, there's also some interesting critters coming out from there. So there is also some disputed lands, which are neutral territory, where neither the Union nor the Confederate have a tight grasp on. And that's Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Utah. Utah is probably interesting for Deadlands because this is where Brigham Young, who is the leader of the Mormons at the moment, declared the state to the independent state of Deseret in 1866. And in 1870, another player entered the map. Dr. Darius Hellstrom arrived in the City of Gloom.
Is it also in Utah? No.
Salt Lake City?
No, the City of Gloom. That's Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's Colorado, is it?
No, it's Utah.
It's Utah, okay.
So is Hellstrom an enemy of the Mormons?
No, actually, he is a big fan of the Mormons. Well, they are very big fans of him.
Okay.
Because he invented carriages that don't need horses. And he has been distributing those carriages to them. Okay. And also, all the technological other advancements. And, he gave jobs to the people. Okay. So I think he's really big with the Mormons.
Okay.
And then also neutral is the Great Mace, with Lost Angels. And we've talked about all this stuff before. I'm not going to repeat this now.
And California?
Yeah, most of California is neutral disputed lands, except for Southern California, which is Confederate.
Okay.
But the Great Mace is neutral, and in the seas of the Great Mace, you have Union raiders, Confederate raiders, you have these Chinese warlords, and the steamboats of the Mexican Armada. So, this is like free for all.
Free for all, okay.
Okay, so there's a few Confederate states. Some of them are summed up as the Great Basin, that is Southern California, as well as Nevada. And the only thing I wrote down for this place is Fort 51. At the very southern edge of the Union territory, you have the Fort 51, which is a top secret military base, where they are experimenting with gadgets and the like. And especially there is a troop of soldiers called the Flying Buffaloes, led by Captain J. Kyle. Now, Hans, when you think of the Flying Buffaloes, what does it look like in your mind?
Orc stormtroopers.
I think it's actually really close.
Yeah, they look like the jetpacks. They look like Orc jetpacks in 40K.
Yeah.
So I think every sixth Flying Buffalo will be killed in action. Just from their mechanical devices.
Oh boy.
So it's Fort 51.
Not Area 51.
No.
Because that is probably going to be Confederate?
Yeah. Because we just read that it's like the Roswell kind of thing. And that's in Roswell, I think it's called Area 51.
All right. And that is a Confederate military base.
With the same, maybe with the same flying backpacks or some stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Almost done now. The rest of the Confederate states are called the Wild Southwest. They include Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. And there is not a lot of information in the Deadlands core rulebook about them, except for 3 interesting diseases that you can get there. So first there was the Texas fever, which was very, very deadly. And then you had the tummy twisters that originated there.
Okay.
Which we know, which looks like a disease, but actually it's a little living thing that grabs onto your stomach and then feeds itself until it's big enough to come out.
Okay, like Alien.
Yeah, and you're not going to survive that. And recently, there has been an epidemic of prairie ticks, which is also really bad.
Okay, so there must be the servitor of disease there.
It doesn't think that area.
Or isn't there any servitor?
Yes, it is disease.
Okay. Which one is disease?
Dr. Darius Hellstrom.
Is he?
Yeah. You have death, that's stone. War is Raven. Famine is Reverend Grimm.
Ah, yeah.
And disease is Hellstrom. City of Gloom with the smog and everything.
Ah, okay.
People get sick there too.
Okay. So do the diseases originate from him?
Actually, I don't know. Maybe, but it's not written down in the core rulebook.
Okay.
I'll have to find that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, last but not least, there is some Indian territories in the middle of everything. Native American territories, but in the book it's called Indian territories.
Okay.
So I'm not actually racist. I'm just paraphrasing.
Maybe it's from 20 years ago.
Yeah. So the Sioux have gotten their own nation in 1872.
Okay. They are called Sioux nations.
Yeah. And the Sioux nations are somewhere around Dakota and Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of the Sioux nations, there is a very famous mining town called Deadwood that some people know from the TV series. Other people know it from somewhere else. It's a really nice place. It's one of the elaborated towns that you get in the Deadlands core book, where you could start your adventure.
Ah, okay.
And there is another Native American territory called the Coyote Confederation. This is where the Comanche and the Cheyenne and the Arapaho and the Kiowa gathered.
Okay.
And they are led by a mysterious hooded figure called Coyote. And nobody knows who he is because nobody can see his face.
And do you know?
Yes, I do know. But I can't tell you because it's also part of the meta plot.
Okay.
And that is the Weird West, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't really information about the East Coast of America in the Deadlands core book. There is some splat books about that. You can get a book for the North in the East and the South in the East.
Okay. So that would be typically like New England or
Louisiana
and stuff like that.
Dixieland stuff.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Wow, that was a tour de force.
Yeah, but it's a comprehensive guide.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's a comprehensive guide, yeah. So on the map, there are like lots of battles.
Yeah.
Like, and is there information about every battle, or can you make up stuff?
There's actually information about it. I didn't include it because I didn't know how important this could be for Deadlands.
No, just for every battle, or?
For most of them. So, when you leave the territory of the historical battles from the actual Civil War, there is descriptions about, when the Confederates tried attacking Washington with their new mad science gizmos and how that failed and everything. So if you're into that kind of military history, you can read a lot about that in the core book as well.
And so tell me about the Battle of Lost Angels. Angels.
The Battle of Lost Angels?
Yeah, 1879.
Yeah, that is later than the date at which Deadlands is classically set.
Ah, okay.
Because the Battle of Lost Angels is going to take place during the plot point campaign called The Flood.
Ah, okay. So it's secret.
Yeah, I don't want to really spoil it. But as you know, there is Reverend Grimm in there. And it might be that some other people have a vested interest in, getting Grimm and his religious followers out of there.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Especially since Reverend Grimm currently blocks all the advances of the different rail companies. Because they all kind of have to go through Lost Angels, I think. And he denied them access to the city.
Ah, okay. Yeah, there are like 2 rails going to Lost Angels.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting place, the Weird West. I wish I could read more about it, and I think I will. If any of the listeners have an interest in specific parts, maybe the Native American territories, there's whole books just about those. Okay. Or maybe some parts of the east of Northern America. Let us know.
I think for Doomtown related stuff, it would be like most interesting more the western part, or?
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that is my very wavering overview of the Weird West. There's a lot more to it, and as you can hear, I am not a veteran about it. I just read it in the past few years, and I'm sure there is people who've been playing Deadlands for 20 years who could who could like instantly write a book about everything that happened in the Weird West. And if you're one of these people, why don't ask us to come on our podcast and tell us what the Weird West actually is like?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Of course. Is there a Deadlands podcast?
I haven't seen one. No.
Okay.
It's always been a little bit of a niche role-playing game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't found a podcast dedicated to Deadlands yet. There is probably some role-playing podcasts that talk about Deadlands for one episode.
Okay, yeah, but not like a dedicated Deadlands podcast. Okay.
That would be kind of interesting. I was always toying with the idea of having a Deadlands Reloaded actual play, playing the role-playing game in English and then recording that and putting it on the internet. But it's, there's a lot of problems because I don't think that in the English language I could be a good game master because I'm struggling to find all the words and stuff. And then also, you need to find people, you need to have time to actually do that.
And do kind of Skype session. I wonder what's next after the Kickstarter campaign. Do you too?
For Deadlands?
No, for Doomtown.
Yeah, me too. So it's...
Because there hasn't been any spoilers about that, huh?
No. And they said they don't want monthly releases anymore. So they want to slow down the pace and then give bigger chunks of new cards at the same time. I still don't know what this is going to look like.
Like a Kickstarter every half a year or something?
Could be. But 24 cards every half a year? Does that work?
Do you think it's too few cards or?
I'm not exactly sure if we are going to keep playing for half a year with 24 new cards. It's possible, definitely, and it's a good game, and there's a lot of design space open right now. But it's just you have to keep thinking about the game. Maybe they're going to focus more on tournament series and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but even then, like there's the Team Covenant podcast, and they talk about living card games and from a kind of theoretical viewpoint. And to get in, they say like living card games have to get influx of new cards every now and then, just to keep they view it as a kind of puzzle, to find the optimal or the best kind of deck. As soon as the puzzle is solved, the game gets stale. And so I wonder how is that with Doomtown, because it's essentially a living card game still. Just now a slow living card game, or is that even possible?
I tend to think maybe not, because I see in Netrunner, every month there is a deck that you have to beat, and it takes about a month to find a way to get around the strengths of that deck. And then you need new cards for something else to emerge. And I'm sure Netrunner would feel stale, and it did feel stale when a few of the dominant decks stayed dominant for more months at the time. But then in Doomtown Reloaded, with the Epitaph series, I found some random decks online that won tournaments that were using cards that aren't really new. But still, I was like, oh wow, there's this kind of miracle deck that you can actually do, like Onwards Christian Soldiers, really? And, so maybe because not as many people play Doomtown Reloaded as Netrunner, it takes a bit longer to solve these puzzles, because it's not immediately after a pack comes out, there is a deck that is just grossly overpowered. But, some people...
Because like millions of people are testing it, or at least thousands of people are testing it.
Yeah, it's a smaller community, and that is actually also an advantage maybe for Doomtown Reloaded. Because, I've heard of some metas in America where they have had some kind of interesting deck for months, like putting the pieces together, that we just found a few weeks ago. And I don't think the meta is as global as in Netrunner, for example.
You don't think so?
Well,
because in Doomtown DB you can view all the top decks.
Yes, you can, but I'm not sure. On Pinebox, on the forums, there was a thread about how are the different factions doing at the moment. And people were like putting together what factions won which tournaments, and they came to some conclusions that I think nobody had before. You know, like everybody was surprised. Oh, a lot of people are playing Law Dogs. So, you know, it feels a lot more, it feels like the Weird West, you know. It's like you go into a boomtown and you have no idea what you're doing there or who's there.
Yeah, okay. So that's maybe an advantage. Yeah, so I'm really wondering what's happening next.
Yeah. But I'm staying patient. It's actually kind of nice not to have so many new cards all the time. And we still have so much to explore.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's it for today.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us.
And of course, look at our Facebook page for the lottery.
Yes, until the 15th of August. Also, next episode is going to be the Kickstarter episode. And it might be we have a bit more news than about our podcast as well.
Yeah, see you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. You can send in your questions, feedback, or comments to booteddudes@gmail.com or on facebook.com/booteddudes, all in one word. Music used with kind permission from Wellbad. You can find them at wellbad.de or facebook.com/wellbadmusic. Please, if you like this podcast, consider writing a review with text or just the stars, because it helps other people who are looking for podcasts about Doomtown Reloaded find us on iTunes.